A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, two civilizations met for the first time. Would it be peace, or would it be war? Is this a lesson in unity, or inevitable betrayal? Let's find out. It's not easy being green. This little leafcutter ant is learning that lesson the hard way. First, its colony mates, and it gets bullied by some fire ants. Then when it finally manages to get a bite to eat, some more fire ants attack it. But why? Why do these normally docile ants suddenly turn aggressive? And will our leafcutter survive the day? As always, there's more to the story, so let's dig into it. This is an invasive species of fire ant, the red imported fire ant, and this one was busy collecting food for its colony. Suddenly, it finds a leafcutter foraging nearby and attacks without warning. It must have been quite a shock for the leafcutter because it doesn't fight back. Instead, it runs off. The fire ant follows, but it soon realizes that there's safety in numbers because several other fire ants join in on the chase. These guys don't mess around. They just gang up on their victim and rip it apart. But why are they doing this? Fire ants usually don't attack anything that isn't a direct threat to them. So why did they decide to go after this leafcutter? Foraging can be a competitive business. And if food is scarce, ants may turn on each other to steal their prey. This might explain why the fire ants attacked the leafcutter, but it doesn't explain why the leafcutter didn't defend itself. Some people say it's because the leafcutter was too scared, but I think there's something else going on here. You see, all ants belong to the same family, and since leafcutters and fire ants can interbreed, they must also speak the same language. But despite this, they are mortal enemies. That's because they live in different parts of the world and only rarely meet in the wild. When they do, there can only be one winner. That's why the leafcutter probably knew that it couldn't win a fight against a colony of fire ants. And I think it knew exactly what would happen next. The leafcutter managed to escape the first ambush, but it wasn't fast enough to avoid the second one. Two more fire ants joined the chase, and it looked like the end for our leafcutter, but then something unexpected happened. One of the attackers stopped dead in its tracks. It had discovered a piece of food, and instead of finishing off their dying victim, the ants decided to collect this free meal. Maybe they were trying to be polite, or maybe they just realized that the leafcutter wasn't worth the effort. Whatever the reason, they let it go. The leafcutter took its leave, but I'm not sure it learned its lesson. After all, it stayed in the same area, which must have been really dangerous. These guys are crazy. Even though they just shared a meal, these fire ants are now attacking each other. What happened? Well, you know how sometimes when you meet a stranger, you never get a good vibe from them. Turns out these ants got the same feeling. These two fire ants used to be allies, but now they're engaged in fierce combat. In nature, things aren't black and white. There are no good guys and bad guys. Every living thing is just trying to survive. You know, sometimes you meet someone who looks like they want to help you, but in fact they just want something from you. It turns out that's exactly what happened here. See? These fire ants are parasitic. Each colony consists of a queen and male drones, as well as workers who collect food for the colony and take care of the young. Now, recently, another queen moved into this colony, and that's what started all this chaos. In ant colonies, where there are multiple queens, the workers often turn into bodyguards, protecting their favorite queen from intruders. In this case, the newcomers weren't so lucky. It seems that the new queen had brought along her own security team, and the invaders were quickly overwhelmed. But the fight was far from over. All the males rushed to protect their queen, and soon the whole colony turned into a battlefield. Sometimes during such battles, ants fall outside the ant hill and get lost. But it's not such a tragedy because there are many more ants inside the ant hill ready to replace them. Well, not yet, because this battle was so intense that both queens were lost. I hope that those ants could see that they were fighting for nothing, but I doubt it. In any case, this colony was clearly doomed. See, most insects have an instinct that tells them to stay close to the colony, but ants are different. Their super colonies can spread over large areas, and individual ants often wander far from home. Some scientists even think that ants don't have this instinct at all. Maybe they're the only insects in the world that can orient themselves without pheromones. That's why the ants who wandered away during the battle were not lost. They were simply scouts searching for a new home for their colony. After all, an ant colony can move to a new place, although this is usually done gradually. In any case, these ants were able to find a new shelter and continue their existence under the guidance of a new queen. Do you remember the leafcutter ant that barely escaped death in the first ambush? Well, here it is again. And once again, it's being chased by fire ants. It seems like these ants are playing some kind of game with their prey. They attack, but they don't finish it off. But why? You know, sometimes people do the same thing. They torment their victims, but they don't kill them. That's what these fire ants are doing here. And now it's obvious why they let the leafcutter go. The ants were simply waiting for it to lead them to its colony. But the leafcutter wasn't going to make it easy for them. It kept running, hiding in bushes, and generally doing everything possible to get rid of its pursuers. But ants are persistent creatures, and eventually they found what they were looking for. Now the ants are storming the leafcutter's anthill. It's not clear how this battle will end, but I'll tell you what, it's not important. The ants have already achieved victory. Yes, I know it sounds strange, but I'm serious. You see, these fire ants were able to find the leafcutter's colony, and that's already a success. After all, finding an enemy's base in the forest is a daunting task. But these ants did it. That means they won. All the ants inside this anthill will die, but the colony as a whole will survive. A group of scouts will go out into the world to look for a new home, and meanwhile, the rest of the colony will continue to grow in this place. That's how life works. Sometimes you have to retreat in order to strike back sometime later. Sometimes you need to lose a battle in order to win the war. It's hard to believe, but this is exactly what's happening right before our eyes. In the struggle for survival, sometimes ants resort to insidious tactics. They infiltrate another colony and wait until the moment when they can strike a decisive blow. Looks like that's exactly what happened here. This leafcutter has found a nice cozy anthill, but it has a big problem. It's being attacked by army ants. Imagine you're at home watching your favorite TV show, and suddenly a gang of robbers breaks in. This is exactly what's happening to our leafcutter. The army ants are storming the anthill. There's nowhere to hide. There's no chance of victory. But maybe there's still a chance to save the situation. The leafcutter desperately runs around the anthill, probably trying to find a way out. But the army ants are blocking the exit. Suddenly, the leafcutter climbs up a blade of grass. It's too late. The army ants are already on top of it. Looks like the end is near. But then something miraculous happens. The ants hesitate. Apparently they don't understand what to do next. Just at that moment, a new leafcutter appears. I think they agreed in advance to play this scene. Both ants acted brilliantly. They pretended to be ordinary leafcutters, but in reality, they were spies. The army ants decided to capture this anthill, but their plan failed. Only one ant got away, and it disappeared into the grass. Did the leafcutters manage to drive the army ants away? That's hard to say, but there's no denying that their deception was flawless. However, the army ants are not giving up. It looks like they've changed their strategy and are now simply waiting patiently near the anthill. Soon, a new leafcutter appears, and the army ants immediately attack it. The ants have excellent eyesight and can easily spot the enemy spy, but this leafcutter didn't come alone. It brought backup. More and more leafcutters appear on the horizon. They're angry and ready to fight. The army ants realize that they've lost and flee from the battlefield. Victory is theirs. But maybe this is just a lull before the storm. After all, the ants are constantly fighting over territory, and this war is far from over. So I ask you, what would you do in this situation? Which side would you choose? The eternally warring leafcutter, or the cunning and ruthless fire ants? Leave a comment below. We're eager to read your thoughts.